G'day Eagles fans and welcome to another instalment of the Inside Swoop, courtesy of Jim Beam, appreciating their support through the year. Will Schofield back at the desk. Will, how are we?
Good, mate. How are you?
I'm good. This was a strange feeling amongst the footy department afterwards. I'm assuming, they would have been wrapped with such a profound response to the Swans' performance a week prior, but also letting a game slip that they were in total control of for the majority.
Yeah, I mean, it's disappointing to lose a game that you can win, right? There hasn't been as many opportunities they would have liked for that to happen during the year. I spoke about it leading into this game. It's funny, outside the footy club, clearly a lot of noise after the Sydney game, and there's a lot of negativity and all this stuff. But inside the four walls and in the footy department, it's amazing how quickly you need to move on. Like that. Focusing on that Sydney game, it doesn't matter what happens in footy, whether it's losing poorly or poor performance or outside noise, you don't have time to think about it. So they would have been in a pretty positive area. It seems strange, but they would have been. So clearly they needed a response. They got it, led by their leaders, but the young kids looked really solid too. So overall positive, but I know a lot of people downstairs there, the honourable loss doesn't sit too well with anyone, so it's still a loss.
The Eagles head into the main break. They're 4 goals up. They were dominant in the kick mark possession count, but in the second half, the Saints really shut that down. How were they able to do that?
So St Kilda's style of play usually is empty out, put numbers behind the footy and make it really hard to score, which they tried to do, but West Coast had a really good game plan, used the footy, used the free options in that first half. The second half looked different because St Kilda, they came back up the ground, they closed down those options. They stopped West Coast being able to use the footy, almost like a bit of an old school West Coast look, intertwined with the new way they want to play, good around the footy, high intensity, all of that. But the Saints then got on top of stoppage as well. And nothing changes in footy, doesn't matter who's out there, all the injury stuff, game plan, all of that. Fundamentals of footy are, if you get done around the footy, it makes it really hard to win. And St Kilda really stepped up in that space. That's why they were able to take the game away.
Eagles had 9 players in their first or second year, and it included the sub as well in Harry Barnett.
Yep.
And so the CEO, Trevor Nisbet, was complimenting of both the youngsters and the seniors that guided them through such a performance.
With the number of younger players that we've got playing, just amazing really to see the performance of some of those young guys. And I don't think they can perform like that if our senior guys don't lead the way. And of course, all those kids and young players that we saw out there on the weekend, they're our future. They're going to be a big part of this football club for a long period of time. And we'll be able to add to that this year as well. So there's going to be some really classy players amongst that group.
It started with the senior leader, Scully. Luke Shuey had 8 tackles in the first term. I think that was a club record. Held by Pritter, who else?
Yes.
Which was an impressive sort of leadership. And that, just as impressive as this, I've heard amongst the traps that he'll be fronting the MRP payments for youngsters Jinby, Bailey Williams and Chesser for the little scrap that they got involved in, all 4 of them. And that's the kind of captain I want out there.
Yeah, I like multiple aspects of it. 8 tackles in the first. Would have been nice for him to finish the game off. He only finished with 9. I got into him a little bit that via text message. I said, mate, why didn't you have 35 tackles? Look, that's an indication of intent, basically.
We had it in the first CBD, gave away the free kick, almost over-exuberant to be like, I'm smashing this contest whenever I can. But it showed where his mind was at.
You know him personally, and so do I. He takes these losses in the way the club's performing personally. So he really wanted to show, coming back into the team after a week back in Sydney, obviously, that he could lead from the front, and he did that. It's good. Frankly, the paying the fines of the young kids, I love that.
Big time.
And I love how that happened. They were sticking up for their mates. I was quite critical of the team around an incident earlier this year, and I, you don't want to condone or endorse any of that stuff. But if you've got to stand up for your mates, you do. And get into the deep pockets of Luke Shuey to pay for him. Very good.
28 touches, 8 clearances. He had a team high 6 score involvements. So his equal game high, his equal 7 coaches' votes with Rowan Marshall, who had a fair game, was recognised from both parties as well. Who was the more impressive senior leader out there? Was it himself or the vice captain in Tom Barrass?
Tom Barrass was really good.
Get your defensive goggles off for a minute.
Well, I'm about to tell you another name. You're not going to like this either. Shannon Hearn, also very impressive down back. So, look, 2 senior leaders behind the footy. That's where the games are won and lost, as I always say, down the back line. Tom's been pretty consistent all year. Missed maybe 1-2 games in the middle there, but realistically, from an injury point of view, he's been a bit of a shining light for the club and intercept marking spoils. And then Shannon Hearn. Look, Luke Shuey, Shannon Hearn, Tom Barras are probably the best three players. And I know there's been a lot of talk around senior players and going on next year or not going on, but what you see from them and what they deliver, that's important for the young kids. Whether or not they win or lose, what they do by their actions is really important, and it's why they're so important around the footy club right now.
It's so great to see Jamie Cripps return. He's had 13 weeks off and returning with 14 tackles. Like, I'm sure the ankle isn't 100%, and he's to do that when you're not positioned around stoppages constantly for a day. It's remarkable.
Did he have 14 tackles?
Yeah.
Wow. I reckon that's the most he's ever had, clearly.
He's always been a good tackler.
He's always been a big goal kicker, which means you're usually not a big tackler. So he, like Luke Shuey, would be taking the performances of the footy club personally. And tackles only indicate intent. It doesn't mean it doesn't have to mean you're a great tackler or a big strong guy or an inside midfielder. It's just fighting him with that intent to make an impact on the game. So not surprised whatsoever.
A few massive moments out there for the youngsters. Let's start with Harry Barnett. He's made his debut. A unique position for a ruckman. You reckon he's the first to come on as a sub with 9 odd minutes to go?
Let me just consult my sub history books. I don't know at this stage, but...
You were never sub, were you?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, 2014.
Subbed out, definitely.
Oh, subbed out, certainly. But I was sub, my first game under Simo, I was sub.
Right.
Yeah, and Mitch Brown got poked in the eye in the first quarter. So I'd mentally, I'm going to come on for a quarter here. I'm going to have 15, just run my legs off. Ended up playing a full game, played horribly. Wasn't a good start from mine and Simo's relationship.
Were you hoping a mid came out? You're like, I could reinvent myself here. And then Brandy came out and was, I guess I'm going down back again.
Probably should have just picked me in the first place. Simo.
All right, we'll move on then. So Ryan Marich, he's dropped off the back of having the 2 games, tough 2 performances. Go and get some form in the waffle, start with some confidence, come back. But he's got to call up with the illness that swept the club. And first game on home soil, to boot a couple of goals, just would have been ecstatic for the youngster.
Yeah, I mean, look, he goes back to the waffle before he comes back in. And it's on the back of it, mate, he hasn't been in an AFL system. No one does this. They get drafted in the middle of the year, straight into the team and start playing. Realistically, the club would like him develop. So that's what they would have been thinking. But then they're comfortable with him playing. And he's done this almost every time he plays. He impacts the scoreboard and he impacts games. And that's why they've picked him up. So, yes, he'd be happy playing Optus Stadium for the first time. Every ground he plays on for the first time, right? So, look, I've been really impressed with him all year.
You've got Hewitt booting his first goal. The celebrations, getting the crowd involved in it. I'm assuming you're a massive advocate to see something like this.
Could not love it anymore. I love seeing the young kids get up and about. If you had asked me 15 years ago when I started, and this is no negative on John Worsfold, but it was a more old school approach then. I think he would have been straight to the bench onto the phone, revving up the crowd in the background. But I think the game and players and the way we look at celebrating the wins has changed. It definitely has. And look, I loved it. That goal he kicked through the stoppage goal he kicked his second goal. I said it over at Backchat. Yep, I'm plugging that. But I
Great
think,
burst of speed through that contest.
I know you want to keep things under wraps, but I think that's a Judd-like action, and I can only speak like that because players like greats like Judd and Ablett and all those guys would hit it at full speed. Silrioli, that's what made them different to anyone else. Like to me, I could go through and crumb a ball, but I'm probably not breaking those tackles because I'm not running fast enough. He was at full speed. And not many people can do that, so that's exciting.
Jack Williams, who was battling fitness tests throughout the week, was subbed out with the ankle injury the week prior, got up and put through his first in West Coast colours. We actually spoke to him during the week about his emotions playing on the home deck for the first time also.
Oh, it was unreal, mate. To do it in front of my fans and my family as well. Cripper set me up pretty well, so pretty grateful for him. I got to get him back, but yeah, it was awesome. Oh, it was amazing. All the fans would show out and it was so loud and all the boys brought the energy throughout the game, and just to build up throughout the week was obviously we had to bounce back and the boys did well. So yeah, it was awesome whole week, yeah.
Yeah, look, I've loved Jack Williams, seeing what he's been able to do in the game on the weekend. Look, difficult to gauge it against Sydney. It's just no one could get a job done one-on-one anywhere, but he took a couple of good marks.
Backup ruck as well. Good to see him pinch hit there.
Yeah, I just think he looks solid. I think the same with all the boys. I thought it was Rhett Bazzo's best game for the footy club. Clearly, we were talking about Elijah. Noah Long's goal and his performance, he's going to be an absolute jet. The more I see of him, the more impressed I am. So
Best Eagles goal this year, do you think? Put you on the spot.
pretty close to it, yeah. I heard him. I saw him speak about it. He said there was a modest kid, so he said a bit of a fluke in it, just kicked it. He knew what he was doing, mate. Don't worry. Then you won't hear it from him. But he got it in one hand, put it straight to the boot. That's what good forwards do. He looks really good.
On the subject of fluky, Jack Petruccelli put through one of the more memorable goals of the afternoon. Intentional or on purpose?
No, absolutely not intentional. I don't know how it ended up in the middle of the goals. It is not possible to do what he did. He was trying to kick that at right angles across the goal to an open player, trying to do the team thing. He has flushed it in the middle of his boot, spun a perfect drop punt straight through the middle of the goals whilst trying to kick it to the left. So I don't know how that happens.
We'll hear it from the horse's mouth. This is Petruccelli during the week.
It wasn't on purpose at all. I saw Gaffey at the top of the square and I saw Longy and the defender was teasing a little bit. So I think I was in two minds, but I was going everywhere but the goals and that's where it went. So it got lucky.
Who kicked the best accidental goal in Eagles colours? Is it you or Masto?
To Darling, he thought he should have been paid it. Marston in the pocket. Chips it to the goal line. Awesome! That's off the scale. I'm not even sure he meant it.
Nah, he's admitted.
Oh, definitely Masto. Masto's been insane and his reaction was probably a little bit better than mine as well.
Do you remember the Masto goal?
Yeah, and like that was pretty much similar scenes, right? The Maston like throwing his hand over his face.
So should Petch have sold it better, as he said there?
Well, I think so.
Yeah.
But Basto didn't sell it either. Basto was running around going, "Oh my god!"
Sorry, sell the accident part of it.
Oh,
like
yes.
Masto wanted everyone to know this was a genuine accident.
But you could
Petch, you weren't quite sure.
Nah, you could see him talking to the boys saying, "I did not mean to do that whatsoever."
All right, 6-day break heading into the Lions, Scully. We won't get stuck into that one. It'll be the lads sporting their First Nations Guernsey once again as we continue the celebration of NAIDOC Week. Plenty of great initiatives happening between the club and the Wildage Foundation, formerly, of course, the Wirrapunda Foundation, your former teammate, established back in 2005. They're continuing to provide support for First Nations people through education, employment and business opportunities. You can visit and get more information at wf.org.au. Brisbane currently third on the ladder. They are paying $1.001. I don't even know how you... 005. I don't know how you pronounce that. Half a cent. So what do you put? $100 and get 50 cents back?
Yeah, maybe.
Unbelievable scenes.
Yeah, it's not. You wouldn't say that they'd be favourites, would you? I mean, it's the most difficult trip in footy. Perth to the Gabba. It's a 5-hour flight. They're not the most comfortable away rooms in the league.
They're shocking.
Yeah.
So then what are your thoughts since 2008 that the Eagles have played at home 4 times out of 20 against the Lions, and what that says about the equality of the fixture and the competition?
Yeah, you showed me this stat before. I think that's outrageous. Didn't know that before today.
Did you feel it was heavily weighted that you never played Brisbane as much?
Yeah, looking back, so that's since 2008, pretty much the start of my career. I can't remember many times playing here against Brisbane, but I can remember playing in Brisbane a lot. I got injured really badly one day. Not a lot of great memories from Brisbane, and then of course we spent time in the hub there as well, so we'd play at the Gabba. It's just a really difficult ground to acclimatise to. It's different to every other ground. It's slippery. Brisbane play it really well. It really suits their game style. And, they're starting to get back to their best form as well. So all that culminated with West Coast, where they are at right now. And it makes it the hardest trip in the game. The 4 from 20 seems a little bit strange.
You're grumpy the best of times. I can't imagine you injured. 5-hour flight home. Insufferable comes to mind.
Fractured cheekbone in about 5 places. Yeah, it wasn't the most comfortable thing.
They are going to lose Josh Dunkley, a major weapon for them inside, but they've got plenty of others to cover. Such a prolific on-baller. What type of matchup do we expect on the weekend?
Well, through the midfield.
All over the joint.
Yeah, well, I think West Coast will get a couple more senior players back. I mean, I heard McGovern was close last week. He didn't quite make it through, so maybe you get to look at him. Tim Kelly hopefully comes back into the side. So they'll certainly help West Coast's chances. They're going to have mismatches across the ground, though. Brisbane's a good side. West Coast haven't been. But if you bring energy, intent, all those things, you can take it up to side. So I would say it's not much of a mismatch as perhaps being presented, but it's going to be a tough game.
All right, well, Eagles fans do have an opportunity to see the boys in Brisbane, get down to the Captain's Run at the Gabba, Gate 2, 2:30 for a 3 p.m. start. Go and check out the boys, cheer them on. Scully, this is the Inside Swoop courtesy of Jim Beam. Until next week, all the best.
Thanks, mate.